Well, hello again to my Planners on Purpose community. I'm so excited to be joined here by a special guest, Kenny Totten with Allfly. So, Allfly is a group booking tool that makes it easy for event professionals and anyone who books group bookings to secure air travel. So, as you know, I'm all about highlighting the tools that are just easier for us to do what we do. And I'm really excited for this conversation. So, Kenny, welcome so much to the Planners on Purpose podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, just excited to have you here. And it's been great to just learn a little bit more about Allfly. But first, I would love everyone to hear about your journey, how you got to be this tech founder of the group of this company called Allfly. How did that happen?
Yeah, so it all happened being stuck in a car with my co-founder for a week. Not your typical founding story. Eric and I've known Eric, my CEO, since I was 19 years old. So I'm 35 now. So it's been a little bit. And we both referee Division I college basketball, or he did, I still do.
Wow.
And we got put on a swing. So we were together for an entire week, and I was driving him, chauffeuring him, if you will, from game to game because he was so busy. And he had his laptop in the passenger seat and he had a stack of papers.
Oh,
And they were all basically, he was reconciling credit cards in QuickBooks. And I was
oh,
just asking him because we're stuck in a car, like, what are you doing? And he's like, I run a travel agency that books airfare for other tour operators. And that was all foreign to me. I had no idea what he just said. He could have said he was a brain surgeon. I'd have the same level of understanding. So I
so you
started
were in a
asking,
completely different field or world or with what you were doing at
yeah,
that time.
yeah. At the time, I was 24, 25 years old, and I had just graduated with my master's degree in marriage and family therapy, of all things.
Oh, that's a total change.
A total change. And then I was in the process of, I think, leaving my nonprofit job,
Mm.
and I started my own digital marketing and web design company. And so after talking with Eric, I was like, I think I could help you with like web design and marketing. So I signed him up as a client at first, and then we did well enough, and then I joined the agency. And then about a year into the agency, it was an old school travel agency where we would just do everything over email. So it was like almost no tech at all. 3-ring binders, stacks
Oh,
of
that's
paper,
way back, way back.
way back. But some agencies still operate like
You
that, where
still
they
do that?
email you flight options and they say, pick
Oh,
these flight options over email. It still happens. We still compete against those guys.
that's true.
And so
Wow.
over time, me and Eric kind of saw the writing on the wall, like this business is going good, but it could go great with technology.
Mm.
So in 2018, we incorporated the company and ran it for 2 years and just started taking it piece by piece. We didn't have any venture funding. We didn't have any backing. It was really, it was bootstrapped from day one.
Day one.
And
Wow.
we just did it piece by piece. And then COVID hit.
Well, I mean, and I don't mean to laugh at that because COVID, yeah, it's just that big thing that happened back in 2019 that we do not want to talk about. But
Right.
it's just amazing how, just the passion of where you see that things could be will take you. And it sounds like that's what happened with Offline. It's like, here's how things are now, and we could get much better, and let's go for it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I would say that Eric and I saw that in 2018 that the internet was designed to disrupt all middlemen, right? And
Yeah.
really travel agents and more or less are middlemen, especially for what we were doing at the time, where tour operators would call us and they'd be like, "Hey, I need 100 seats on a plane for my school to go to Orlando."
Mhm.
And we would act as the middleman and do all the shopping for them over the phone. And I was like, it's only going to be, there's not going to be that many years that this continues to happen offline.
Mm.
So our first product was actually not in the meeting space. It was in the group travel space. And we built what is like akin to Expedia, but for groups of 10 or more on a plane traveling together. And so we're really proud of that product. We released it during COVID, and it started kind of going gangbusters. It started going really well. And then companies started reaching out to us and then started asking to book meetings and events travel, which is a little bit different. But that was the start of it. It was really just a passion to make things easier. And it was self-preservation in its truest form, where if we didn't build it and make it digital,
Mhm.
someone else was going to, and that was not going to be great for our business.
Yeah. It sounds like you saw the opportunity for technology to elevate your business, right? And that to me in 2019 when everything hit, it was probably a saving grace for you. Would you say not? Or how did your business change as a result of the pandemic and getting through the pandemic? I would think that you already had that edge up on technology, that you were a little bit farther than other people in the space.
Yeah. So we had about 2 years of building. And we had a lot of learnings, right? So the
Mhm.
agency goes back to 2014. So we had years and years and years of getting to know our clients, working with our clients. So we understood their problems. And then we started slowly wrapping technology around it. So when the pandemic hit, we had a little bit of it built, but we had barely enough cash saved to get through the pandemic. That cash on hand combined with PPP loans. And
Mhm.
we slowly basically built our technology very slowly at a snail's pace over the course of 2 years during the pandemic. And so the pandemic was a chance for us to build uninterrupted, but it was not the ideal environment to build because it was no support, no customer feedback,
Right.
because we weren't even sure that tour operators were going to exist and meeting planners were going to exist, because there's a
They
lot,
were
like
all
you probably,
dropping. Mhm.
they dropped and some of them never came back.
Yeah. Mhm. It's
And
sad.
so
Mhm.
we took this like insane bet where our thesis was, this is bad. Everyone says this is going to change the world, but more often than not, things usually go back to the way that they were. And we actually looked at 9/11, right? When 9/11 happened, I was in middle school, but the headlines were like, everything is going to change, right?
Mhm.
And then you fast forward from, post 9/11, and sure, things were different. You had to take your shoes off at the airport, but the world snaps back
Yep.
and people are resilient and they get in their habits, and habits are hard to break. And so we made a bet during the pandemic where we're not going to close the company. We're going to keep building. And when things go back to normal, we want to be there on the other side of it. So it was really a testament to Eric of just having the will to just keep it going. And that's what we did. We kept it going. And then on the other side, we went from zero revenue to $1 million a year in revenue just back instantly. Um,
Wow.
we had to lay off a bunch of our team, most of them,
Mhm.
all of them came back.
Oh.
So we had a really great and loyal team where they just sat on the sidelines, and then they're like, oh, we're starting the game up again. Cool. We're in. So that was really good. A little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work. And then just, we made the right bet of like, things will go back. It's not going to be
Yeah.
like this forever. Virtual events. I sat on one virtual event during the pandemic,
You're
and I
like,
don't know what your take is. I'm like, there's no future here. This trash.
there's a way to do them well, right? And I think we learned that probably during the whole pandemic. It's like, okay, here's where we are now, and here's where we can go with these virtual events. But I agree with you. Definitely, it's not what we would do moving forward. Everyone wants that in-person experience or just a
Totally.
blend of both experiences for sure. So
Yeah.
I heard you say a few things that I just think it's amazing to just see how many businesses really did what they did during that time. Some chose to stay a little stagnant, and I know it might have been painful for nothing to be happening and things moving at a snail's pace, but the fact that you were building, that's just, it's an expansion word, right? You're building during a time that seemed to be slowing and everything going backward. So I think that's just a great testament for where you are now and how successful Allfly has been now. If you didn't build during that time, on the other side, it probably wouldn't work out as well, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's a great testament to you all continuing to push forward to build despite the circumstances. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Now I was pretty mad because if you remember back in the pandemic, there was like the summer of 21, there was like a lull where like all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's over. And then Omicron hits
Oh,
in the fall. So we actually
yes.
thought we're like, oh my God, we're out of it. And then Omicron hits and we're like, no, we thought this was over. And then we were in
Oh,
for another few more months. And then schools, which was our basically schools was like our beachhead customer, and school boards were not authorizing trips to go back.
Yeah.
And so it was just slower to recover, and student travel has still been slow to recover, but corporate travel and event travel, not so much. That came roaring back fast.
No, goodness. Well, I mean, yeah, it was just amazing where we saw our growth during that time. I'm just kind of thinking for myself for meetings and events, some of the events that sustained through the pandemic, how some of the weddings kept going, but corporate market was just gone,
Mm,
However, on the flip side of it, now you have some of those companies like, roaring back, and we're finally back, and we have more business than we can even handle right now. So it's just really interesting, the whole dynamic of things. And it definitely was a test of leadership and a test of loyalties and just willingness to continue in this industry. That whole event was. So hopefully we're out of it, and we're not going to have another another variation of the same
yeah,
thing.
no more
No
pandemics,
more.
no more like global financial market
Yeah.
meltdowns. Like just give me 36 months of relative I've been playing the game on hard mode for so long. It's like I just want easy or medium mode for just a little bit of time.
Just a little bit. Easy
Yeah.
button, just for a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to jump a little bit into Offline, because I'm sure the event planners that are on this podcast are just wondering, okay, so what's up with Offline in this group booking tool, and how does it make it easier for an event professional or anyone that's looking to book group travel for meetings? Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience is, and what makes it so easy?
Sure. So we built our latest online booking platform called Allfly Quest. We built it as a love letter to the meeting and events community. So
Mm.
it's really easy. We actually are go to market. We partner with meeting planners, incentive houses, and event companies to be their trusted airfare partner. So how it works is we have a really great group. For example, Lamont Associates.
Mhm.
It's a network of about 50 to 100 third-party meeting planners, and they refer us their clients because their client has a meeting of 100, 200, 300 people. They all need to get to Cancun. They give us an email intro. We schedule a demo. We walk them through what we think is the easiest online booking tool in the market, especially because it's built for meetings and events. We do the demo. We're closing about 80% of all of our demos. So like we show it, they're
Yes.
like, that's exactly what we need. And then we deploy the booking engine to the company. For the
Okay.
company, it's really easy. They send us a list of approved attendees. We talk about travel policy. There's some really cool things that we can enforce to make sure that
Mhm.
the company stays in budget. And then we give them a unique link that they can put inside their registration or inside of an email. And it's basically once they're done with their whole process of getting set up, they usually see a link that says book your flight. Our booking platform shows up, Quest, and then on their screen, they'll see their event card, and it'll have all the information, their own brand, their own pictures, their event name, the details. And then there'll be a big button that says book flights. They smash that, they book their flights. We put it on arrival and departure report. And then as a way to say thank you to meeting planners, we send a referral fee per flight booked back to the planner. So we are actually a free service to the planner that they can use to make a little bit of money extra, because we know that planning meetings is really tough, really hard. And anything that we can do to say thank you, we want to do. So we have a referral program of money that goes back to the planner.
That's awesome. I mean, what can you not love about that?
Yeah. So like typically someone just recently sent us a group of 1,000. We
Mhm.
booked them down to Cancun and we cut them a check for $5,000 once booking was done. And all that they really did was link us up via email, and we just
Mhm.
kept them in the loop during the process. They did join the demo just to see what we were all about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's basically if a few $1,000 is worth an email, send it our way. Kenny at allfly.io, and we'd love to give a demo and see if we're a good fit.
Perfect. Yeah. So tell me, let's say if the company says, oh, well, maybe we would like to use that benefit to come back to the company or the strategic meetings management and program in some way. Is that something that you work out as well, or does that always go back to the event planner? Just wanting to know.
We're very flexible. So we have all
Okay.
types of agreements where sometimes it goes back to the company, sometimes it goes back to the original planner.
Okay.
Sometimes our clients are like, hey, we don't even need the referral. We would rather just take the
Mhm.
$5 off and give it to the client.
Okay.
So we're very flexible, and we'll work within a partnership model to make sure that it works for everybody.
Perfect. Awesome. And then, so are there any other, let's say, benefits for, let's say, a company or like a corporate benefit for using Allfly within their business?
Yeah. So typically we're seeing that companies save about 15% on average when using Allfly. That comes in a few different ways. So it's not like an easy, straightforward answer. We're going to give you 15% discount across the board. It actually happens in a few different ways. So for meetings and events, we actually load in meeting contracts into our booking portal. So right off the bat, you're going to save between 2 to 10% off of the published rates. That means when you shop on our platform for most airlines, you're going to see a cheaper rate on Allfly than you would see on Expedia.
Yeah.
With one caveat, we don't book basic economy tickets because no company, still to this day, we have not booked a single basic economy ticket because they're horrible. It's not a good product for business travelers. But we could book them, I guess, if you really wanted to dip your toes. Typically, what happens is you'll first get those discounts up front at booking. We also have a ticket protection program, which has been our hottest and biggest seller. And if you're a company paying for travel and if one of your attendees cancels a ticket on Delta, American, or United, we will refund the cash value of that ticket minus $50. Now, all my insiders know that this is a big deal because typically when a company pays for travel, and say you work for Apple, Apple books you $1,000 ticket to Cabo and you cancel. Well, Apple, that money is gone to Apple because it sits on the traveler's account as an e-credit.
Right.
E-credits are non-transferable. So
Mhm.
with us, we have a unique program that even the biggest TMCs in the world do not offer. And we give cash back on those 3 airlines. And we have signed up more business on this program in the last 4 months than almost borderline than we could handle. And
Yeah.
we sit alongside big platforms like Agencia,
Mhm.
Amex, Concur. And when they have meetings and events, they choose to use us for the meetings and events. And because of the booking engine is built for meetings and events, and for programs like this, it just makes a lot of sense because stuff happens
Yeah. I mean,
and
people
you want
cancel
that money back. Oh my God.
all the time, you know?
Yeah,
They
totally.
cancel, they can't come, they change their dates, and it's really great that they're able to get money back versus it just be sitting there for the next time that person actually travels. So I think that that's
Totally.
pretty cool.
Or if you
Really.
fire an employee after they book, right? We've
Mhm.
had a handful of firings. We've had a handful of layoffs where they booked tickets and then the department got laid off.
Mm.
And the department got laid off. They were going to go on the incentive trip. And then all of a sudden, now we were able to refund that company. I think it was like $8,000.
Wow. So it
Yeah.
puts money back into the company's pocket, but then it also makes it easier for them to be able to maneuver when it comes to some of these bookings and not necessarily have to rely on that e-credit that's sitting there. So I think that's pretty amazing. It's a very distinctive difference with all of the different companies that you mentioned. What other differences do you see that Offline has, let's say, from, those other companies you were saying like Concur and some of the others?
Yeah. So we love when customers of Concur come to us and they have an incentive trip because inside of Concur, there is not the ability to book guest travel, right? So they don't even have a field for multiple passengers. It's just you can only book for one person. So often we'll have Concur customers come to us and say, hey, we need to book this incentive trip for 300 people to the Dominican Republic or Miami.
Mhm.
And we handle those in spades. We also have a feature which we're really proud of called split billing. This
Oh,
happens in 2
yes.
ways. Oh, so
It
you must
sounds
have a
awesome,
little
just you just
bit.
saying it.
Yeah. So you can tell me which one that you like more. So we have 2 flavors. We have split billing. Say that your company is going to let you go on a trip and you want to bring your partner, but the company won't pay for your partner. Well, with us, you can shop for two people. At checkout, we will bill the company the value of your ticket and then bill you directly for your partner's ticket. This way, you don't have to have two separate transactions. You can be on the same PNR. This is important because when people want to use their status to upgrade, you don't want that situation where you're diamond on Delta and you're on split tickets and all of a sudden you're in first class and you left the husband back in coach,
Like,
right?
yeah, and coach, yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
good.
not going to be great. Or when there's a flight disruption, if you're not on the same PNR, then someone may get rebooked on a different flight and now you're actually split up. So we allow you to basically split bill the guest traveler. And then the second one is we allow you to split bill for upgrades. So let's say that your company pays for a main cabin ticket, but you're feeling a little bougie. You're like, I'm going to treat
I need to be
myself.
in business class.
I
Yeah.
want to go to business class. Delta has this new French toast. I heard it's amazing. I need the French toast.
Yep.
So you upgrade yourself. We will bill your company the $400 for the economy fare, and then we will bill you the difference, say $800 for the first class fare.
Gotcha.
So of those two, which one do you like more?
I like them both. I mean, if I was like selfish, I would say I like option number two. But I mean, in dealing with a lot of programs for groups, I really like number one too, because we have that situation all the time. I think of incentive programs. They typically, not always are the families invited, and you usually need to have them all on one booking. So that just works perfectly for them and just saves you so much stress with managing their travel. So I can see both of them as a very good option depending on the situation.
Yeah, it doesn't set vacation off right or your trip off right when your family's in coach and you're in first class. That's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight.
It definitely is. So I love this. So let's talk about integration. So I see that you integrate right now with Cvent and is it Swogo?
Swogo, yeah.
Swogo. Okay. So how are the integrations doing, and do you see any more integrations in the future? I really like that you're already integrating with these two, because I've seen some of the integrations that have happened, let's say with Cvent and some other booking tools. So it's really great to see that you have this, and I think it's exciting. So any other integrations on the horizon, and how is the current integrations working?
Yeah, so typically the first level of integration is really low tech, where we'll be embedded in a registration process. We'll be embedded in a registration form, and that's usually just via like a hyperlink, right? So it's just like someone drops a link, it says book your flights here, and then that brings them into our platform. That's really low tech and super easy, and you could kind of do that anywhere that accepts hyperlinks, not a problem. The harder part is taking all of our flight data that we book and then passing it back to the registration platform. So currently we do that. We can send you, if your provider is able to accept it, we can do it in a number of ways. It's a pretty easy lift for us. It's more about what is the cost structure on the other side, because I think Cvent sometimes charges you for some things like this. And so we have the ability to pass that data back to you. And then, so that goes pretty easy. And then we're currently working on a integration with an ERP system where we would pass all of the transactions to Microsoft Dynamics. And this way, so it basically makes expense reporting seamless. And so we should be through that one in the coming months. And it just allows us to go up into enterprise a little bit faster.
That's amazing. I think that's great. And those are the exciting things, right? Just seeing how the tool can integrate with other tools and the information being passed back and forth. It just provides great opportunities just for reporting and just, like you said, just invoicing everything. So yeah. So speaking of reporting, wanting to know the types of reports that your tool can provide on, let's say, an event level, but then also on a corporate level, right? Because you do have companies utilizing your tool for, let's say, their overarching program.
Yeah, that's true. So on the overarching program, we're going to give you total spend by vendor, and then all of your transaction breakdowns, and we'll give you the ability to mix and match that.
Mhm.
So similar to the reporting that you'll see in like big corporate expense tools, all of
Mhm.
that it will be coming into our platform later this summer. On the
Mhm.
event level, we give you the ones that are the most bang for your buck that are unique to events. So we give you an arrival and departure list.
Mhm.
Now, I've seen a bunch of these, and I'm a product guy, and I've seen them as like Google Sheets or Excel documents. No one
Oh.
wants to read through 200 lines and say like, how am I making sense of this? So what we do is we give you the chart of everyone's arrivals
Mm.
and their departures, and then we give you a graph that says you have 53 people landing between 9 and 10 o'clock.
Oh my goodness.
So you
That's
could
so
just
nice.
look at the graph and just say, oh, we have 140 people arriving between 9 a.m. and 12. Okay,
Mhm.
so now I can right size my ground
Exactly.
transportation
Mhm.
and optimize. We also give you a report for who has booked and
Mhm.
a report for who has not booked, because we know that the faster people book, the closer people book to the start of registration opening, the better airfares you're going to get and
Mhm.
the less money the company is going to spend. So we
Mhm.
have a feature called Nudge where we email remind you when you haven't booked, because every company
Oh, so
has
we don't
those.
have to do that. You're doing it. It's just
Yeah,
automated.
it's
I like that.
automated. So you give us the list, and if you have 100 people and 73 have booked, we'll email the other 27
Oh,
programmatically and say, hey, you haven't booked a flight? Click this link and jump in here.
I'm telling you, event professionals, if you're listening to this is amazing. You should talk to your leader, whatever you have to do, because it saves you so much time, right? Following up with people to book their travel. I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Time and money, because
Mhm.
I would say that, it's not uncommon for that last 10% to cost the company sometimes, on the best case
Thousands.
scenario, hundreds, but
Mm.
often thousands. So that's why we really, whenever we hear like, oh, we're just going to book on our own, like the alarm bells go off in our head, like you really don't want to book on your own. And you also don't want to choose an agency that emails options back and forth, because that's slower and the agent is not holding those fares. So as you
Mhm.
email and they get back, those fares go up and up and up. So the speed to execution to closing out booking is something that we were radically focused on. And we wanted to be the fastest, easiest way to book your entire program in the smallest amount of time possible. Because in this world, time is money, and you
Mhm.
don't have to sacrifice white glove service for speed. That's a
Yes.
common misconception that some people will be like, well, you're not going to handhold my people. Be like, we can email back and forth. But if we're being honest with each other, that's going to be more annoying because people just want to see all their options.
Right.
And they don't want the feeling of like talking to a human. They want the feeling of, I got the flight that I wanted for my program
Exactly.
in the fastest amount of time possible. So we're combating some of this like old school nature of, you're not going to call my people or email.
Mhm.
And it's like, your people actually don't want that, because we ran a program where we actually let people call or book online, and it was for 120 passengers. And we actually made the UI to like give them a choice, like give us a call or email, or click here to enter the booking. And it was 97% of people decided to book online.
Oh, wow. See, and that just brings up another question. So in my past, I've had years of working with healthcare professionals, right? So many times they some of the companies that are, let's say, providing the travel for them to get to their event need them to be handled in a personal way. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's just by, calling them directly, and there's this whole big, huge email exchange to figure out what they need. So it really, I guess, changes the perception of what personal touch or high touch is when it comes to booking travel. Do you see that changing, and how does Offline kind of conquer that or work with that?
Yeah, so it's definitely something that we're wrestling with. So we will do both. So
Mhm.
we have clients come to us and they're like, "Hey, can you call all of our attendees?" The
Mhm.
answer to that is yes. We can certainly do that. We have no problem. If you have maybe like an older group that's less tech savvy, we've had those situations where we've just called and dealt that through like an old school travel agency model. But what I will say is the prevailing thought is that there's someone on a leadership level often that thinks that equates good service with talking to a human being. And our thesis is that is true, but where does the human jump in actually matters. So inside of our booking portal, our happy path is you click that link, you go in and you see the flights that you want. Should anything happen, we have a little circle on the bottom of our screen that will let you one-click video chat to a live human being.
Oh, yep.
So during the shopping process, if you're just perusing and you want to get an idea, and then you're like, you know what, I have questions. I have a complicated itinerary where I got to go into Denver, and then from Denver, I have to go to Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
Well, that may be a little bit hard to book. So perfect. Click in, give us a call. One of our agents will jump on. We'll handle that very high touch. But I think that white glove service is about giving people the option to be serviced in the way that they want to be serviced. So we let you talk to us and we invite the calls. We like getting to know our travelers and it's fun. But I think that white glove is going to transition from old school phone call and email to give the traveler the choice. Because not everyone wants to talk to us, right? Some people just want to lay in bed and book their flight, right? They don't want to have to get on the phone. But some people want to say, you know, I won this incentive trip and I want someone to run me through my options. So whichever way that you are, we'll handle you. But I think that the future from like a psychology perspective is going to be choice, and choice is going to equal service.
Yeah. And I see that happening right now, just with so many different tech options and tech tools, is that there's so many ways to do it how you want to do it. And people are going to gravitate towards the way that they want. And, you know, I think that's very smart by just offering them that choice and being able to handle whichever way they choose. So that's really great. And yes, speaking of tech, I would love to, because you seem like a techie guy.
I am. Yeah. I'm
You
a
are a
tech
techie
nerd.
guy.
Oh my God. I'm
I
such a
just,
nerd.
I want to know about just tech and where it's going. I feel like in the event industry, we've been just a little bit antiquated in some areas. We've been seeing some movements in certain areas, and that's great. But I think the whole rise of tech is changing. It's changing the way the world, you know, operates. And it would be great to see how you feel. Not only does travel booking, how it will change, but just even in the an event industry, how it would change with tech. Let's start there, because I know this is
Yeah.
like a big conversation.
It's a big question. And I think that the next 5 to 10 years is going to get weird. So that's what I would say. I think it's going to be weird. And the rate of change is going to be like breakneck speed. So if you want to educate yourself, I would actually get on Twitter. So Twitter is a lot of where I see like the latest and most breaking news on AI. It doesn't get covered in the mainstream media as much, which is kind of sad. But
it goes so fast, I think, you know.
It goes so fast,
Yeah.
and some of it goes over people's heads, right? So I think that for the meetings industry specifically, I think that AI over the course of the next 18 months, you're going to need to know how to use these tools. And if you don't, you're going to be left behind.
I agree.
So for example, I just got access to Google's Bard. So the famous one that everyone knows is ChatGPT 4. People use that, and it has 100 million users plus. And it's good for meetings and events, but it's not connected to the internet for everybody. Google already has a wealth of travel data. So I ran something this morning where I acted like a meeting planner, and I said, I'm a meeting planner. I'm hosting an event for 500 people, and I'm looking at New York versus Orlando. I want you to list me out 3 premium properties that have over 1,000 rooms and over 50,000 square feet of meeting space. And I would like you to give me the average room rate night for the month of October and present me all of this data in a table.
Yes.
So In 30 seconds is what it took me to write that. And then in 20 seconds, it gave me the response. And
And it was
that
accurate. The
it was
accuracy of it was.
so here is what I would say.
Mhm.
I've done this with airfare too, and we're actually incorporating Bard and Chat GPT-4 into, we have a tool called Forecast where you can budget your airfare for your meeting and event. And you do have to double check data. So there's some stuff that you do have to review, and you cannot run that request and you cannot send that data to the client without thinking about it and putting your own professional eyes on it. Because there are times where you have to ask, hey, where did you get that data from? So sometimes you actually have to have that conversation with the AI of saying, where did you pull that rate from? And it will tell you where it pulled it from. So anything with the AI that doesn't pass muster, you have to dig into. So what I would say is that AI, number one, it's going to give people superpowers. It's going to speed people up like crazy. Number two, it's going to make people more critical thinkers and better reasoners, because you don't want to shoot that to a client and then the client get an RFP back and it was wildly off base. But it was a very good starting point. And I think it'll put pressure on tools to be more accurate, because people are going to use Bard and Chat GPT-4 alongside their favorite booking tool like Cvent. And these things are going to go head to head. And eventually it's going to start looking in Cvent and it's going to pull that data, and it's just going to create a corpus of data that's going to be very, 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 very challenging. And so I think in the short term, it's just going to give people superpowers and it's going to make them more efficient. And I think that you should absolutely go on bard.google.com and you should sign up for an account and spend an hour playing with it every day, because the things that it can do is wild. My wife is an attorney and she dropped in a contract. And she's like, read this contract and tell me all of the terms that are non-standard or things that I can negotiate on. This contract would have taken her maybe 10 minutes to read. It did her job in 4 seconds.
Oh my goodness. And how much money with that?
Yeah. And she's an attorney, right? So she would have billed, she would have got to bill 12 minutes for this job. And, say she bills $300 an hour, that task now was done for pennies that would have cost maybe $40 in the past. So it's going to just make like analyzing data and number crunching very, very fast. Now, there's a lot of stuff that it comes short on. Like it doesn't do a good job of like multimedia, and so much of travel is visual. So I don't think that the interface is actually great for travel. And like Airbnb famously tried to integrate with Chat GPT-4, and then they thought that this is not the way. The interface, the experience was not it for travel. So I think that there's going to be interface innovation, but it's a powerful tool. I'm wondering, like, have you used these tools and what do you think about it?
I think it's amazing. I've used OpenAI. You even see some of the AI represented in certain apps and platforms that I currently use. And I think it's absolutely amazing. I feel like just as you do need to put that human touch on it, look at the information, make sure it's accurate, make sure that it is displayed in the way that you would like it and it's in your own voice and things like that. I think that's really important, but it significantly cuts down on what I have to do. So I feel for event professionals, if they aren't using this tool, they definitely should use it and see how you can apply it to different areas of your business, and do like Airbnb did, just see if it works, see if the interface works, see if it's where you want to go, and make those changes now so that you can be a little bit ahead, because it's only going to continue to change, right? So I think it's amazing space, but sometimes I feel like we put the cart before the horse when it comes to technology. I feel like we kind of throw it out there, everybody uses it, and then we try to put regulations and rules and everything on top of it after it's already gone.
Yeah.
So that's another story, but I do feel like it's significantly cutting our time, and it's a good thing, but we also have to see how we can leverage it for us so that, let's say, humanity stays on top. So I see this changing jobs, but then it's like,
Totally.
where are the jobs going to be, right? Where can we find value in what we do, and where would that be? So I'll be interested to hear from you on that, because ChatGPT and these kind of AI tools can certainly take over certain areas, but we need to be looking towards where, I guess, humankind can stand firm and still provide value.
Yeah, I think it's going to be weird. And I think it's really hard to have a blanket answer to this question because in the short term, people probably overreact of like, oh man, this is gonna, they like overestimate it. And in
Mhm.
the long term, they probably underestimate it.
Yeah.
So I would say that me personally, I think that this is going to change the amount of input that people have to put into the system for the same amount of output. So a good example is last month, I think ChatGPT saved me maybe like 12 hours of work. So
Mm.
I became, let's call it 15% more productive. So that is a thing. My wife is an attorney, and I see this replacing paralegals.
Mm.
So I don't know if that's going to be a job in 5 or 10 years, a paralegal, because what do paralegals do? They do legal research.
Mhm.
The AI is going to do that better. What is, they do scheduling. Once the AI has like its own working memory and it can access your email and talk with you, it's going to schedule. So I think that there are going to be some jobs that just get wiped from the face of the earth. If you're a white collar knowledge worker
Mhm.
and you don't have connection to the real world and you move data from one place to the other, or you manage spreadsheets, it's frightening, to be
Yeah.
honest. I would think about reskilling, to be candid. And then in the long run, it's so hard because this is going to change and get better so fast. And these LLMs are going to build upon themselves,
Yeah.
and they're going to make business owners more money and more profitable and more productive. And we don't have a great history of like sharing the profits, right? So it doesn't get distributed. The money and gains from productivity do not get distributed evenly or fairly.
Mhm.
And so I think that if you're a professional right now, you should be using these tools. You should be trying to understand them, and that you should have an honest conversation with yourself of what does my job look like in 5 years. Maybe it doesn't take away from the
Mhm.
paralegals jobs, but maybe like America needs 1 million paralegals. But once AI hits its like not final form, but it gets to a place where it can start taking those jobs away, maybe the amount of jobs goes from 1 million to
Yeah.
250,000. And
Yeah.
so that's scary, where it doesn't, now you don't need 10 paralegals at your office, you only need 3.
Mhm.
But humans, the amount of money and output is going to be the same. So the amount of money circulating in the system is going to be the same. It's really who captures that value.
Yep.
So I think that people will get repurposed, but you should be thinking about that today, and you should
Yes.
be learning about it today. If you do have to reskill, you should be thinking about it and learning and planning for that today. Also, if you are a family that, is living kind of paycheck to paycheck, I would be thinking about saving money, and I would be thinking about creating a nest egg, because as this goes faster and faster, you're going to want to have financial stability so you could kind of ride the waves of where this could go. So it has far reaching implications, and some of it
Yeah.
is terrifying and scary to think about, but I think that you need to understand it, and you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and begin to
Mhm.
plan.
Right. And it doesn't just stop at, I wait until my leader brings up ChatGPT. Like, no, you need to go ahead and sign up for an account, explore it for yourself, explore, because it can have dramatic efficiencies just for your personal life too. It's not just
Totally.
for business. So I think the more you learn about it, the more you can see how it could implicate or, enhance your role. And then you can really set yourself apart and move towards either reskilling or repositioning yourself in your industry. So that's It's not just for your leader, it's for you yourself to do that work because you don't want to be behind the wave of the change.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a big conversation, and thank you so much for your input. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's exciting too. But again, it's definitely going to change how we do things.
Yeah. I think that like, I don't know many people that enjoy like all the rote boring work. And I think it'll basically take out a lot of that boring work. So maybe the really optimistic take is it's going to free up humans to spend more time on what they're interested in and building connections and furthering themselves. That would be like the very optimistic of like, hey, this is going to unlock things for humanity.
Mhm.
But are there going to be some messy stuff, some messy things that happen in the process? Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I know we're wrapping up our time. I do want to touch a little bit on just growth and scaling because you talked about Offline and where you were in the middle of the pandemic, how you scaled to be a million on the other side of it and possibly continuing to still grow. Can you just talk about some of your struggles with growth in the last few years and give some, I guess, words of wisdom for what you've learned in the last few years?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I would say as a founder that I had a misstep in is there would be some mornings that I would wake up and I would be wrapped up in whatever I have going on. I do a ton of meetings. I'm thinking about the product. I'm thinking about the team.
Mhm.
I have 100 things going on. And for our business, we, especially on my sales team and my product team, I challenged myself and the team to wake up and think, how do we get the next person to know about Allfly, and how do we
Mhm.
get the next customer to come on board? And it's really waking up every day and thinking, what can I do to grow the business today? And it's just even that mindset change got me prioritizing things better because I used to take meetings that like I don't know. I don't need to hear about your SaaS product that you want to sell me. And I would take those meetings in the past out of kindness or respect but now I'm like, no, that's not going to help me grow. It's not going to
Mhm.
benefit the business. So I'm much more conscious of my time and my energy. And then our team is constantly thinking, how do we expand? How do we grow? Because if you're not growing, you're dying, especially in startup land. And and then I would say that in terms of hiring, we have been very intentional about hiring people that are conducive to our culture. So if you're out here hearing this and you're like, oh, these guys at Allfly, they're growing, they signed up X amount of customers, or like they'd be great to work for them. But you came from a company where you had a very narrow job and you
Mhm.
just clocked in and clocked out, and it was very defined. We're not your place to work. And in fact, when we hire people, I try to convince them not to take the job, to be candid. I'm like, listen, you really want to get into this? Like, we don't treat this like a job. We treat this like a sports team trying to win a championship.
Yeah.
And, and your job is not secure. So if you sign up with us and you don't perform, like we don't have room for B and C players. So there's no free rides. You're not going to coast here. You're going to probably work the hardest that you ever have done in your professional career. And you're going to wear multiple hats. You're going to ask to do things on the fly. And if any of that sounds like it would cause you stress, I wish you the best. And like, there's a ton of companies that you'll fit and plug right into. It's just not us at this stage. Now we may get there one day where it's like everything's neatly defined, but our promise is like, you're going to learn, you're going to be with a bunch of people who have each other's backs. We have almost the same core team from 2014. We've all been together for a decade, right?
Mhm.
So you're going to have people that genuinely enjoy working together. We're very mission focused, and we're down to work hard. And sometimes in travel, as you know, something happens at 9 p.m. at night and you have to jump on your computer and put out a fire.
Yeah.
If you're not answering that call, you're not it for us at Allfly. If
Mhm.
now on the other side of the coin, when you have to go pick up your kid at 3:30, you don't have to take PTO because we understand that. So it's a give and take. So we're we're understanding, but we also need you to understand that this is not a cruise ship. This is a rocket ship. And so if you want to go on the
There you
cruise
go.
ship and sunbathe in the deck, more power to
Yeah.
you. At some point in my life, I'm going to opt into that as well, but
But if
just
you're on a
not right now.
rocket ship, you need to suit up, right?
Yeah, totally.
How are people's response to that when you're trying to literally sell them out of not coming on board? Do they lean in most of the time?
You know what? To be honest, most people do, because I think that the promise is you're like, listen, and we hire a lot from inside of our network, so we self-select out of this. So most of our employees are like of the colleagues of our other employees or like past workers. So they read those people in.
Mhm.
And so most of them are like, I'm going to do the best work of my life. I'm going to learn the most that I ever have. I'm going to walk away with this thing. And we're not like romantic about it. Like most people stay with us for long periods of time. But if you want to do a 2 and 3 year stint where you do amazing work and then we prep you for your next role, amazing. Like I would love to be the Duke basketball of the business world and just creating all these little monsters that go out into the world and just dominate, right? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But most people lean into it. And then
Mhm.
from day one, it's easier to ask people stuff
Right.
and to say like, hey, we need you to do this, or we have this new initiative, this new opportunity popped up. We're going to just run towards this fire and put
Mhm.
this out. So I think it makes for a good culture.
Mhm.
And just being honest with employees. Like I want
Yeah.
to, if you're going to spend a third of your life working with me and with us, I want you to know what you're getting. Cause this is like a weird little marriage. And like, you should know what we're like. We should know what you're like.
Yeah.
And there's a contract here. Right. And if it doesn't work for both sides, we're both free to exit out of it. But we do our very best to be honest about our values, our work structure. And it's not to say that I want to be a hard ass, because we're actually like very, like we don't have our vacation policy is be an adult, right? So
Mhm.
it's not like 2 weeks. Like we want you a minimum to take 2 weeks. Like we've had people not take 2 weeks off, or like you need to not work for this week, like just go
Yeah.
somewhere. But if you have, like I had a year when I was 28 where I went to 4 weddings. Like,
Yeah.
okay, go do your 4 weddings and just get your stuff done. So we're very
Exactly.
flexible, but with that flexibility comes like when the bell rings, you need to answer it too.
Exactly. No, I think that's great. Transparency is key, right? So I think it's amazing, and it really helps you secure the people that you need on the team that obviously will continue to be loyal over time. So I think that's great. Well, as you know, it's, I guess, Mental Health Awareness Month. I wanted to talk just really briefly, really, really briefly
Yeah.
about recent blog post that you talked about, like your 35th birthday wasn't so kind
Oh,
to you, and you were just, it was just not so much a good time, I guess, right in your life. And I know we all kind of struggle with that. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about stress, we talk a little about overwhelm and burnout. So I would love for you to just share a little bit about that period and just how you have, let's say, managed that in your personal life.
yeah. So on my 35th birthday, the 6 months leading prior, I'll make this quick, like 2 minutes. On my 35th birthday, I felt like I was having a heart attack or like a panic attack. And I've been feeling like this for the last 6 months. And I thought I was just having anxiety and panic attacks. But then I checked on my Apple Watch and I was in AFib.
Mm.
And this caused me, I was like 35 years old. I'm in decent shape. Why is
Yeah.
my heart just freaking out?
Yeah.
And so it caused me to really go on a health kick. So I started basically logging and tracking everything, because I believe if you want to change something, you have to track it first.
Mhm.
So I got an 8 sleep bed and I really focused on my sleep. And the 8 sleep bed is fantastic, huge plug. And this blog is actually on their page. So I guest wrote for 8 sleep and I talked about how measuring my sleep has gotten me to be more healthy. I
Yeah.
went on a little pill regimen of magnesium to help with my sleep. That's been fantastic. Although I
Heard
have
that
weird,
helps. Magnesium has been
oh
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but weird dreams. I can't tell the
Oh,
difference between my dreams and reality.
oh
It's,
my
and my
goodness.
wife is the same. She's like, whoa, I can't take that. That's too much.
Oh,
But I, so during the day, I do a few things to like just keep my mental health in check because it's important. I take a 20-minute break twice a day and I go walk my dog for like half a mile.
No, puppy cuddles. I love it.
Puppy. Yeah. So I have a great little golden retriever. And so I schedule those breaks in. I try to work out 4 to 5 times a week. That has vastly improved my health, my mood, my life, my self-concept.
Mm,
And so getting my sleep right, getting a firm commitment to scheduling fitness and breaks
mhm.
has really been pretty good for me. I think my wife is happy because I seem
Yes.
more jolly and cheerful and
Oh,
healthy. So you have to make time to put yourself first and make your
yeah.
mental health a priority.
Yes. Thank you so much. I just wanted to touch on that. And I knew you would just be able to, just share what you've done. And it's just very important that we all take good care of ourselves. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I really appreciate it. This was great. I feel like I can talk to you all day. But seeing that you are, let's say, a travel provider, I just want to ask you, what is the most amazing place that you've ever traveled that you would recommend, let's say, me to go to next?
Honestly, I know it's such a sellout, but Maui, I'm sure you've been, right?
Yeah, I love Maui.
Maui's so good, but it's
You
such a
can't go
cop out
wrong.
answer. You just can't go wrong. It's Maui. And then I really loved, I say what it's not like the most convenient to travel to, but I
Mhm.
did my honeymoon in Poincitano.
Uh-huh.
So, in this coast of Italy, it's
Oh,
on every single postcard. It's just crazy to get to.
okay.
And it's
Like that's the
crazy to
second
move
one.
around, but that's the second one. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. We learned a lot and it was so great to talk to you. I just really appreciate you and just wishing all five the best. Before we go, please let everyone know where to find you and any, just last words before we go.
Yeah. So definitely check out our website. It's allfly.io. And then you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. There are not that many Kenny Tottens in the world. So if you drop my name in there, you will see my face. Shoot me a DM. I'd love to connect. And if we can service your travel needs in any way, this is my shameless founder sales plug.
There you go.
Definitely let me know.
Great. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kenny.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.